welcome back to JW Cars and Bikes. The topic for this video, differential bushes. Now you may remember from one of my previous videos that whilst my car drives very lovely, there was one little issue with it. The differential bushes, as you can hear there, are on their way out. Yes, it was time to try and tackle that horrible unwanted gear change clonking noise from the back of my car. And after doing a bit of research and digging around underneath the car, I determined that this here was the culprit, the rear differential bushing. In addition to the one at the back, there are also two at the front which are in better condition, but seeing as I'm going to be poly bushing the entire car anyway, I decided to change them out as well. Now for those of you who have never heard of bushings, they're essentially hard blocks of rubber which connect vital components to either other components, the chassis or the subframe. The ones replaced in this video mount the differential to the subframe, however instead of using simple rubber bushings, I'm going to be using Powerflex polyurethane ones. Now the main benefit of using polyurethane over rubber is that rubber is more flexible and will naturally degrade over the time, whereas polyurethane is both 30% stiffer and is massively more resistant to wear. They may cost more than rubber, but if you're planning on your build being performance based or even just sharpening up your car in the handling department long term, they're an essential investment. For more information on Powerflex bushes for your car, please visit powerflexstore.co.uk. I'll leave a link in the description. I've got the parts, I've got the tools, I've got a driveway I can work on. Absolutely nothing can go wrong. Now if, like me, you plan on undertaking this task at home, you will need a few things to hand, namely a jack with axle stands, a socket set with extensions, a set of spanners, a torque wrench, female torque sockets or E-sockets, a pry bar, ideally a helper as disconnecting the prop and drive shafts will go much faster, and most importantly a bush removal kit. You'll find these are anywhere between £70 and £100. I found this kit on eBay for £74.95, which I will be using to remove the bushes. Once you've jacked it highly and securely enough to fit one or two idiots underneath, you'll need to remove the two 10mm bolts holding the heat shield which covers the near side bottom subframe bush. Next you'll need to remove two 80mm nuts and four 30mm bolts holding the reinforcement brace. Turns, have this cross brace off. Good God, them subframe bushes need doing soon. Yes, to my horror, whilst I was under there I discovered my subframe bushes were knackered. So yes, another job that will be featured very soon. Look at us, day to them. Now the cross brace is removed, you need to remove the drive shafts out of either side. You'll need an E46 socket for this, female torques. Make sure the socket is completely on the bolt when undoing it, otherwise you'll round them off, and trust me, you really do not want to be part of that party. Right, E46's got all of them off this side. I've cable tied the drive shaft out of the way so it's not in the way of the diff. I'll soon have all the bolts out this side, then I can start with the prop shaft ones. After that it's just the diff bolts, and then she's ready to come out. So, currently sat under here waiting for my assistant to finally get his ass back out here because I need the drive shaft to be turned. The handbrake is currently on so that I can undo the bolts without the shaft spinning, but given that there are 6 of them I need to rotate the shaft to be able to undo them all, and yeah. Yes, I'm getting comfortable under here for a minute. Right, there's one drive shaft out. And another one out. Now to tackle the prop shaft, which should be fairly easy. An E46 socket is once again needed to remove the 4 bolts holding the prop shaft to the diff, and as life is never that simple, I had to use a pry bar to separate them as the prop was seized solid into it. As with the drive shafts, you do need a person to help you with the prop shaft, as they'll need to put it in and out of gear in order for the prop to be turned or locked in place as needed. After that you'll need to tackle the diff bolts. There are 2 at the front and 1 at the back. The ones at the front are 18mm, the ones at the back are 21mm, and as you'll discover now, they're not the easiest. My current advice to anyone that wants to do their diff mount bushes, don't. It's an arsehole. Eventually I got the troublesome rear bolt out, and with a bit of jiggling the diff came out too. I unfortunately couldn't get any footage of that particular part as my helper had gone back indoors and the 30 kilo diff needed both hands to remove. After much swearing, the differential is out. And my god, was that prop shaft welded to it. A lot of levering was required, but it is off, finally. So now, to attack the bushes. Now for the wind back tool. It's very simple and easy to use. You simply use one cup that's roughly the same size as the bush to push it through, and on the other side you use a cup that's slightly larger than the bush to receive it. You then wind down the nut, and it will happily just wind the bush clean out of its mounting point. Finally, after a bit of resistance from the rear one, they were all out. Just look at the state of that middle one. Now, as I said earlier, nothing can go wrong. And it didn't in terms of the actual bush replacement itself. Me, however, I acquired a nice swollen lip from accidentally dropping a bush removal cup on my face. Now granted, it wasn't the worst injury in the world, but it was still enough to make me feel like a complete idiot, and it properly hurt. Thankfully, installing the new poly bushes is far easier than removing the old rubber ones. Make sure the mounting points are clean and smooth, and for the front ones, position the bigger cup at the back, smaller cup against the bush at the front, and thread the bar through them and gently wind the new bush into its mounting point. For the rear one, just push in both halves with your hands, making sure the bigger one is contacting the diff, and make sure that all the new bushes have metal sleeves in them before refitting it. Okay, so front bushes are in. Had to be pushed through from the front of the car. Got to make sure that this flange here is poking out the whole way around. Same on this side. Just that it can't push back through. This one up here is all seated as well on both sides, ready to receive the diff back in. Right, my differential is ready to go in. Bushes are all seated and got the slots in them, or rather sleeves in them. Always best to use a jack to get the differential up, especially, well, like me, if you're not using a ramp. I basically bench pressed the diff off when I got it off because I had it on jacks with other things supporting the car underneath at that point. I've since managed to make sure I've got proper axle stand, so now my jack is free so that I can lift the diff up with that so that I don't have to strain. It's probably still going to be a pain in the ass, but wait and see. Hopefully it goes in all nice and smoothly. Also worth noting, the torque setting for the front diff bolts is 110 Nm and the rear is 174. Right, after some jiggling, the diff is back in. Some lovely shiny new Powerflex bushes. So hopefully no more clonking for me. If so, then the subframe bushes are going to have to be done a bit sooner than I thought. Right, now to remount the prop shaft. Always remember, especially if it's seized in, give it a good old with the wire brush around the whole thing just to try and get rid of some of the corrosion, or preferably all of it. That way if you take it out again, it shouldn't be as much hassle as it was when I originally had to take it out. Now upon reconnecting the prop shaft, make sure the bolts are done up sequentially. Don't do just one at a time. You want it to go in nice and smoothly so that the sleeves just fit together perfectly. See, at this stage it's really good to have a helper who can stick it in and out of gear for you. So as I'm tightening them a bit, see it's in gear, out of gear please. I can spin it around, back in gear please, and allow it to tighten. Prop shaft all tightened up, it's now time for the drive shafts. Now I've just got to put this crossbar back on and the guard that mounts around here, and we'll be all sorted. Finally, that brace is back on. Just got to bolt the heat shield on and we're all good to go. Now with the new bushes in and the wheels back on, I went for a short drive to see if I could feel or hear much difference. And I'm happy to report that that particular clonking is gone. Though it's not all good news, as I can still hear a faint one. I've already checked the front prop coupling so that there leaves only the rear subframe bushes. A truly Herculean task, but one I look forward to tackling in the coming weeks and one that will be featured in a later episode. But anyways, I have to leave it there. If you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate the support, and please let me know in the comments if you've got any feedback, ideas about future videos or requests otherwise. I'm Josh, this is JW Cars and Bikes, and I'll leave you with this lovely Porsche I filmed last year.